Hi, it's Jeremy again. I'm managing to record this message a little bit earlier this week than I have recently. I'm glad. I it's the days are full. Now, if only I could make them productive. So here I am, trying to make my life more productive. Trying to give myself another message. And hopefully this one can work for you too. I had the pleasure of having a conversation with an older guy this weekend that pretty quickly turned into an anti-immigrant rant. Not not that this old guy is against immigrants, he's just fine as long as they turn out to just be old white guys that believe exactly the same thing that he does. Which is great, but how is somebody who grew up in completely different circumstances halfway around the world going to have exactly the same feelings as somebody from right here where we stand? That's It's just not reasonable to expect that of anybody. Heck, I grew up right next to where I stand, and I don't believe the same things as the person right next to me. So, but part of that rant was, well, nobody gave me nothing. And I was not in a point in that conversation where I was going to begin arguing. Any arguments would not have got the conversation where it needed to go. There was no point in trying that, so I just let it slide. But it did remind me of some thoughts that I've written about previously, about mindset. Where I live, in a tourist community, there are an awful lot of people that are working where they don't feel appreciated. They don't want to be there. They are there for the paycheck. And unfortunately, that reflects in their work, in all aspects of their work. Their greetings are, and I bristle at that. I want to react, and I do. I try to react positively, because it's just another day in paradise. If you want it to be, if you let it be. Now, I say those words, another day in paradise, and I could hear Phil Collins. I love Phil Collins. Sometimes Phil Collins can be a little melancholy. Being a child of the 80s, I hear Phil Collins. I know Phil Collins. But his song that contains the words Day in Paradise, it is not very light. And when I hear it, I try to use it as an encouragement to make it a day in paradise for somebody else. Or at the very least, to recognize that I have it so much better than some people. Some people right next to where I stand. So instead of hearing Phil Collins, I like to hear the dulcet tones of David Lee Roth. This must be just like living in paradise. This must be just like living in paradise. It can be. John Milton, from his book Paradise Lost, wrote, "The mind is its own place. If you decide, you can be where you want to be. And in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. We all have to work." Mary Poppins in Disney's production taught us that if we whistle while we work, was that Mary Poppins? Well, that was a spoonful of sugar, and that made the same point. If you shine a bright light on what's bringing you down, it can make you feel better. If you douse it, it can make you feel worse. So much about perspective. So much about perspective. And to go back to David Lee Roth, this must be just like living in paradise. But then he continues, "And I don't want to go home." But Milton tries to persuade us that the mind is its own place. You can't go home. You are home. You take your home everywhere with you. So, are you going to make a heaven of hell? Are you going to make that place bright and shiny in your head? Or are you going to make a hell of heaven? Are you going to throw a wet blanket on things and just trudge through your days? I hope you'll join me and make this day like living in paradise. That's all I've got for now. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself.